The early morning sun streamed through the bedroom window, casting a warm glow on the sheets as I stirred awake. Danielle lay beside me, her hair sprawled across the pillow, radiating a beauty that still took my breath away. It was a Sunday morning ritual for us to enjoy a lazy brunch together, and today was no different. I turned to her, the soft hum of her breathing mingling with the distant sound of birds chirping outside. As I slid out of bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The previous night, Danielle had been unusually distant, her laughter a touch too forced during our dinner party with friends. Mark had been there, charming and animated, his presence seemed to linger a little too long in her eyes. I pushed the thought aside, dismissing it as paranoia. I headed to the kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air as I prepared our usual brunch spread: fluffy pancakes drizzled with maple syrup, crispy bacon, and a vibrant fruit salad. The soft sizzle of the bacon was comforting, a reminder of our life together. I poured 2 glasses of orange juice, taking a moment to reflect on how I had fallen for her, the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed, the warmth of her embrace. Danielle finally joined me, wearing one of my old t-shirts, her bare legs peeking out from beneath the hem. "Smells amazing," she said, a lazy smile spreading across her face. I watched her as she leaned over the table to grab a slice of bacon, the fabric of the shirt stretching just enough to tease the edge of her curves. "Thought we could indulge a little today," I replied, returning her smile. She leaned in closer, the sweet scent of her hair mixing with the aroma of breakfast. It was in these small moments that I felt the deepest connection, the intimacy of our daily lives. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, savoring the warmth of her touch. As we sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily. We shared stories from the week, laughter punctuating the air, but there was a lingering tension beneath the surface that I couldn't quite identify. I pushed it aside, focusing instead on the way she bit into her pancake, the syrup glistening on her lips. I felt a familiar stir of desire, a longing to draw her closer, to reclaim the connection we'd always had. But as we finished our meal, a message buzzed on her phone, shattering the moment. I caught a glimpse of her screen before she quickly turned it face down, Mark's name flashing across the display. A knot tightened in my stomach. The air between us thickened with unspoken words, and my heart raced as I considered the implications. Danielle stood up to clear the table, her back turned to me. I could feel the tension rising, the unease clawing at the edges of my thoughts. It was as if the walls of our home began to close in on me, the weight of my suspicions bearing down. In that moment, I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but something held me back. Instead, I chose to focus on the feeling that had begun to brew inside me, an unsettling mix of betrayal and an unexpected thrill. The thought of her with another man ignited a strange desire within me, one that I wasn't ready to confront just yet. Later that afternoon, as we lounged on the couch, I felt a rush of boldness. "What if we spice things up a little?" I suggested, half joking. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a sultry whisper. "What do you have in mind?" My heart raced at her response, the way she leaned into the moment. I hesitated, caught between wanting to play along and the gnawing feeling of betrayal creeping back in. But as she ran her fingers along my thigh, I felt the heat rise between us, blurring the lines of my suspicions and desires. "Maybe we could try something new, something exciting," I said, my voice low. She smirked, the tension shifting as we began to explore the boundaries of our intimacy once more, unaware that the real turmoil loomed just beyond our doorstep. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized how fragile our reality had become. The sweet scent of Danielle lingered in the air, a reminder of the love we had built together, even as shadows of doubt crept into my heart. And beneath it all, the thrill of the unknown called to me, pulling me deeper into a world I was unprepared to face. Just as I began to surrender to the moment, my phone buzzed again, jolting me from my reverie. It was a message from Sarah, my closest friend. "Ethan, we need to talk. It's important." My heart sank, and I felt the weight of impending revelations hovering over us like a dark cloud. "Everything okay?" Danielle asked, her eyes searching mine. I forced a smile, masking the anxiety that churned within me. Just something from work, I replied, but deep down, I knew the truth was lurking, waiting to surface. That night, as we drifted off to sleep, I lay awake, haunted by unanswered questions and an aching need to uncover the truth. My heart raced as I contemplated what lay ahead, the fragile threads of our marriage weaving through a storm of desire, betrayal, and a longing I could no longer ignore. The soft glow of the moon filtered through the window, casting delicate shadows across the room. I could hear Danielle's gentle breathing beside me, but sleep eluded me. Thoughts of her and Mark haunted me like a persistent echo. The tension in our home felt thick enough to cut, a silent acknowledgement of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I turned on my side to watch her, her face illuminated by the moonlight, framed by the dark curls of her hair. My heart ached with longing, a need to connect with her, to feel the intimacy we once shared. I quietly reached out, my fingers grazing her arm, feeling the warmth of her skin. She stirred slightly, shifting closer to me, her body responding instinctively to my touch. "Ethan?" she murmured, her voice still heavy with sleep. "Yeah, it's me," I replied softly, my pulse quickening as I felt the chemistry between us flicker to life. In a bold moment, I leaned in, pressing my lips against hers gently. She sighed, deepening the kiss as she woke fully, her hands threading into my hair. The sensation sent a thrill down my spine, awakening a desire I had been trying to suppress. "Let's not waste this moment," I whispered, my breath mingling with hers, igniting a fire that had long been dimmed by doubt and suspicion. Danielle pulled back slightly, her eyes searching mine. "What do you want, Ethan?" There was an edge to her voice, a mix of curiosity and uncertainty that made my heart race. "I want us to reconnect," I said, my voice low and urgent. "I want to feel close to you again." She hesitated for a moment, a flicker of something unreadable crossing her face. Then, with a sultry smile, she leaned in closer, her lips brushing against my ear. "Then let's make this night unforgettable." With a surge of desire, I rolled her onto her back, our bodies melding together beneath the sheets. The kiss deepened, our mouths moving in perfect harmony as I let the weight of my worries drift away. I traced my fingers along her waist, feeling the soft fabric of her t-shirt against my palms, reveling in the warmth of her body beneath me. "God, I've missed this," I breathed, trailing kisses along her neck, savoring the taste of her skin. Her soft moans encouraged me, each sound pushing me to explore further, to reclaim the intimacy that felt lost. "Me too," she whispered, her hands roaming over my back, igniting a fire that coursed through me. In that moment, it felt as if we were the only two people in the world, wrapped in our own cocoon of passion and desire. But as I pulled back to look into her eyes, the haunting thought of Mark crept back into my mind, threatening to shatter the fragile bubble we had created. I needed to banish the doubts, to drown them out with the heat of our connection. "Let's forget everything else for tonight," I murmured, capturing her lips with mine again, pouring every ounce of longing into that kiss. She responded with fervor, her fingers tangling in my hair as if anchoring herself to the moment. As the night unfolded, we rediscovered each other in ways I had forgotten. Our bodies entwined, I reveled in the taste of her skin, the warmth of her breath against my neck. I explored every inch of her, savoring the familiar curves and the way her body reacted to my touch. With each kiss, each caress, I felt the walls of doubt begin to crumble. We laughed, whispered secrets, and lost ourselves in each other, the shadows of the outside world fading into oblivion. Yet, somewhere in the depths of my mind, I knew this wasn't a permanent solution. The bliss of the night was tainted by the underlying truth I was avoiding. But for now, I allowed myself to succumb to the intoxicating allure of her presence, my heart racing with the thrill of passion and the desperate hope that we could mend what had been broken. As dawn began to break, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, I felt a bittersweet pang in my chest. We had shared something beautiful, but the reality of our situation lingered like a ghost, refusing to be ignored. With the sun rising outside casting warm light across our bed, I resolved to confront the truth. I needed to know what was truly happening between Danielle and Mark. I couldn't let the shadows of doubt consume me any longer. But for now, I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her closer, cherishing this fleeting moment of peace before the storm inevitably returned. The morning light flooded the room, warm and golden, coaxing me from the depths of sleep. I blinked against the brightness, momentarily disoriented, until the familiar scent of Danielle's hair filled my senses. She lay beside me, her body still curled up under the covers, a peaceful smile dancing on her lips. A rush of tenderness washed over me as I remembered the night we had shared, the way we had reignited the passion that felt lost. I shifted slightly, careful not to wake her, but the weight of my thoughts pressed heavily on my mind. The bliss we had experienced was a fleeting escape from the reality that awaited me, a reality I could no longer ignore. But as I lay there, enveloped in the warmth of our shared intimacy, the need to indulge in one last moment of connection surged within me. I inched closer, brushing my fingertips lightly along her arm. She stirred, a soft sigh escaping her lips, and I felt a thrill course through me. I traced my fingers down her side, relishing the softness of her skin, the way her body responded to my touch. "Ethan," she murmured, her eyes fluttering open. She smiled, a sleepy yet sultry look in her gaze that ignited a fire deep within me. "Morning, beautiful," I replied, my voice low and husky with sleep. "I was hoping you'd still be here." "Always," she said, her voice a soft whisper. With a teasing smile, she arched her back, stretching languorously, drawing my gaze to the curve of her body. The sight of her was intoxicating, and I felt the familiar stirrings of desire flare to life once more. I leaned in, capturing her lips with mine, tasting the remnants of sleep mingling with the sweetness of her breath. She responded eagerly, her hands threading into my hair, pulling me closer. I felt myself melt into her warmth, the outside world fading away as we lost ourselves in the kiss. Breaking apart, I gazed into her eyes, searching for that familiar spark of connection. "Last night was—" I started, but the words felt inadequate. "Perfect," she finished for me, her smile widening. "It felt like old times." "Yeah," I said, my heart racing at the thought. I wanted to relive those moments, to drown out the doubts that had begun to creep in again. With a renewed sense of urgency, I leaned down, pressing my lips against her neck, feeling her shiver beneath my touch. "Let's make the most of this morning," I murmured, trailing kisses down her collarbone. "Ethan," she gasped softly, arching into me as I continued to explore her body with my lips. My hands roamed freely, reacquainting themselves with every curve, every inch of her that I had once cherished. I took my time, savoring each kiss and caress, feeling her warmth against me. The way her body responded, soft gasps and gentle moans, urged me on, feeding my desire as I lost myself in the moment. The world outside faded completely, leaving only the two of us and the rhythm of our shared breaths. Her hands found their way down my back, fingers digging in slightly, igniting a heat that radiated throughout my body. "You're driving me crazy," she whispered, her voice a mixture of longing and pleasure. "Good," I replied with a grin, feeling a rush of confidence. I wanted to remind her just how much I adored her, how much I missed this side of our relationship, the intimacy, the passion, the electric connection that had sparked between us. As I kissed my way back up to her lips, I felt her body arch against mine, the heat between us intensifying. I could feel her heart racing, matching the frantic beat of my own. With every touch, every kiss, the doubts momentarily slipped away, leaving only the palpable connection that had drawn us together. In that moment, it was just the two of us, cocooned in our world of desire. I wanted to hold on to this feeling, to relish every heartbeat, every sigh, as if it could ward off the shadows lurking just outside our sanctuary. But as I pulled back slightly, my eyes locking onto hers, the weight of the truth lingered, a reminder that this was a temporary reprieve. "Danielle," I said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Can we talk later? About everything?" She looked at me, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face, but then she nodded, her expression softening. "Yes, we can. But right now—" She leaned in, capturing my lips again, her urgency pulling me back into the depths of our connection. As we melted into one another, the world outside faded further away, and for a moment, the storm of reality ceased to exist. We surrendered to the intensity of our desire, hoping to cling to this moment, to let it carry us through the uncertainty that awaited us. But deep down, I knew that the truth would eventually find its way to the surface, forcing us to confront the reality of our love, a reality that was now intertwined with betrayal. The intensity of our kisses grew, fueled by a desperation to reclaim what we had almost lost. My hands traveled down her body, exploring the familiar terrain of curves and softness, reigniting the spark that had dimmed in the face of unspoken truths. I wanted to drown out the noise of doubt, the nagging fears that had crept in during the quiet moments of reflection. Danielle pulled me closer, her breath hitching as I pressed my body against hers, feeling the heat radiate between us. "Ethan," she murmured, her voice thick with need. "Don't stop." With her words echoing in my ears, I let my instincts take over. I kissed my way down her body, my lips trailing across her collarbone, down to the soft swell of her breasts, eliciting soft gasps that sent shivers down my spine. Her skin tasted of warmth and sweetness, the soft scent of her lingering, intoxicating me further. "God, I've missed this," I whispered against her skin, feeling her arch into me, urging me on. I took my time, lavishing attention on every inch of her, savoring the way she responded, each sigh and shiver like music to my ears. I was determined to remind her just how much I adored her, how deeply I craved her touch. Her hands roamed over my back, her nails lightly grazing my skin, igniting a fire in my belly. I could feel the tension building between us, a magnetic pull that urged us closer. "Ethan," she gasped, her voice breathy, as my lips found their way back to hers. Our bodies moved in a rhythm that felt both familiar and new, a dance we had perfected over the years. I could feel her body responding, a heat radiating from her that matched my own. I pressed my hips against hers, feeling the electric connection that pulsed between us. "Let me show you how much I love you," I whispered, my voice low and filled with urgency. She nodded, her eyes dark with desire, and I took that as my cue to dive deeper into our passion. With each kiss, I felt the barriers that had formed begin to crumble. I wanted to create a space where doubt couldn't reach us, where the only thing that mattered was the way our bodies fit together, the way our souls intertwined. I pulled back slightly, gazing into her eyes, searching for reassurance. "Are you sure you want this?" I asked, my voice steady yet laced with vulnerability. "More than anything," she breathed, her fingers trailing down my chest, igniting flames of desire with every touch. It was the affirmation I needed. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to lose myself in her. I captured her lips again, deepening the kiss as I rolled her onto her back, my body pressing against hers, the weight of my desire consuming me. I took my time, savoring the way her body responded, every sigh and gasp encouraging me to explore further. I could feel the warmth radiating from her, a tangible force that drew me in like a moth to a flame. As we moved together, the outside world faded away, and all that existed was our shared intimacy. The tension of the past week seemed to dissolve, leaving only the two of us, entwined in a moment that felt both sacred and thrilling. But even as we surrendered to our desire, the shadow of betrayal loomed in the background. The thrill of our physical connection could only mask the uncertainty that lingered. I wanted to believe that we could move past this, that our love would conquer the complications that threatened to tear us apart. As I lost myself in the heat of the moment, a part of me remained vigilant, a reminder that this was a temporary escape. The truth hung in the air like a specter, and I knew we couldn't avoid it forever. But for now, as we explored the depths of our connection, I allowed myself to indulge in the intoxicating bliss of our shared passion. The morning faded into afternoon as we became lost in one another, each kiss deeper, each caress more urgent. With each wave of pleasure that washed over us, I hoped to build a bridge back to the trust we once had, a trust that had been shattered by the specter of infidelity. But I also feared that with each passing moment, the truth was waiting in the wings, ready to disrupt our fragile paradise. In the aftermath of our lovemaking, we lay entwined, our breaths mingling in the quiet stillness of the room. The glow of the sun painted us in warm hues, but the weight of reality pressed down on me. I turned to her, brushing a few strands of hair away from her face, taking a moment to appreciate the beauty of the woman beside me. Danielle, I began, feeling the gravity of what I needed to say. The words hung heavy in the air, a palpable tension building between us. I could feel her gaze shift, the momentary joy of our intimacy beginning to fade as we both braced for the inevitable. Let's talk, I finally said, my voice steady but my heart racing. The look in her eyes shifted, from desire to something more serious, more vulnerable. I could see the worry flicker across her face as she nodded, and the reality of our situation began to settle in. The conversation that awaited us was one I wasn't sure we were ready for, but it was a conversation we could no longer avoid. We had shared our bodies and our desires, but now we needed to confront the unspoken truths that lay just beneath the surface. The air in the room felt charged, a heavy silence settling around us as I searched Danielle's eyes for the right words. I knew this conversation was crucial, but a part of me hesitated, wanting to linger in the comfort of our intimacy just a moment longer. Ethan, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. What's on your mind? I took a deep breath, the warmth of her body still pressing against mine, stirring desires I was trying to focus past. I think we need to talk about last night, and everything else, I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. Danielle nodded slowly, her expression turning serious. You mean Mark? The mere mention of his name sent a jolt of electricity through me. I could feel the anger and hurt rising to the surface, battling with the remnants of passion still igniting between us. Yeah. I need to know what's going on, Danielle. I can't pretend that I don't see the way you two look at each other. She shifted slightly, pulling away just enough to look me in the eyes. Ethan, it's not what you think. Her voice held a mix of desperation and sincerity, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to plunge into a reality I wasn't prepared to face. Then tell me, I urged, my voice steady yet tinged with vulnerability. I want to understand, but I need you to be honest with me. For a moment she hesitated, her gaze dropping to the sheets as if searching for the right words. It started as a friendship, I swear. He's been supportive, and I guess I let myself get too close. The weight of her confession hit me like a punch to the gut. Too close? I repeated, feeling my heart sink. Danielle, what does that mean? She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I didn't intend for it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you. Her voice trembled as she spoke, and I could see the turmoil reflected in her expression. What happened? I pressed, needing to know the details even as it tore at my heart. I kissed him, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It was just one moment of weakness, and then it spiraled. My chest tightened at her words, the image of her and Mark together flashing in my mind like a cruel movie reel. You kissed him, I echoed, my voice thick with emotion. And what else, Danielle? Did it go beyond that? She looked away, shame washing over her features. We didn't sleep together, but I can't deny that there were feelings. It was wrong, Ethan, and I know that now. I want to make things right between us. The vulnerability in her voice pierced through the haze of anger I had been holding onto. You have to understand how this feels for me, I said, my tone softer now. I need to know I can trust you again. She reached for my hand, her fingers trembling as they intertwined with mine. I want to be honest. I love you, Ethan. I never stopped loving you, even when I was confused. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. Her touch ignited a familiar warmth in my chest, reminding me of the love we had shared for years. I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack, but the pain still lingered. It's hard to reconcile that with what you've done, I admitted, my voice low. But I need to know you're committed to us. To our marriage. I am, she said fervently, her eyes searching mine. I want to work through this. I don't want to lose you. I want to fight for our relationship. As her words hung in the air, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions, anger, hurt, longing. Then show me, I said, the words slipping out before I could think. Show me how much I mean to you. Her expression shifted, a spark igniting in her eyes as she took a step closer. I will, she promised, her voice thick with emotion. In an instant, the tension in the room shifted once more. The heat that had simmered beneath the surface reignited, and I felt a magnetic pull toward her. "Let's not just talk," I said, my voice low and filled with desire. "Let's reconnect in every way we can." With that, I leaned in, capturing her lips with mine. The kiss was fervent, filled with urgency as we both sought to reclaim what had been lost. Her hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer as the taste of her ignited a fire within me. I deepened the kiss, pouring all my longing and hurt into that moment, trying to bridge the gap that had formed between us. I could feel her body responding, the warmth radiating from her as our connection deepened, a beautiful reminder of the love we had built together. We melted into each other, the outside world fading once more as we surrendered to the heat of our shared desire. As my hands roamed over her body, exploring every curve and contour, I felt a sense of urgency and need to remind her, and myself, of the bond we still shared. "Ethan," she gasped, her breath hitching as I trailed kisses down her neck, savoring the soft skin beneath my lips. The way her body responded, arching into me, fueled my desire. I wanted to reclaim our passion, to remind her of the love that had always been there, even in the shadows of betrayal. "I need you," I whispered against her skin, feeling the warmth of her body beneath my touch. Her fingers dug into my back, urging me on, encouraging me to let go of the doubt that had plagued me. As the moments turned into a whirlwind of heat and longing, I felt myself surrendering to the connection we shared, hoping to heal the wounds that had been inflicted. In that cocoon of intimacy, the shadows of the past began to fade, replaced by a flickering hope that we could find our way back to each other. But deep down, I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The truth of her betrayal would remain a scar, a reminder of the fragility of trust. Yet in that moment, wrapped in her embrace, I chose to believe that love could triumph, even in the face of darkness. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow throughout the room, I could feel the intensity of our connection. Every kiss we shared, every touch ignited a fierce desire to reclaim what had been nearly lost. In those moments, time felt suspended, allowing us to forget the pain that had brought us to this point. I pulled back slightly, my forehead resting against hers, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair. "This feels right," I murmured, my heart racing at the thought of rebuilding what had been fractured. "Let's promise to be honest with each other from now on." Danielle nodded, her eyes searching mine, filled with determination and vulnerability. "I promise," she said, her voice steady. "I want to work through this together. You mean everything to me, Ethan." With renewed resolve, we embraced, the warmth of her body melding with mine, reassuring me that we could find our way back to each other. The intimacy we had just rekindled was a testament to our love, a reminder of the deep connection that had always been there, even amid betrayal. We began to explore one another once more, this time with a sense of purpose. Each kiss was an affirmation of our commitment, each caress a promise of the future we hoped to build. I took my time, savoring every moment, feeling the weight of our past slowly begin to lift as we focused on the now. "Let's make new memories," I whispered, my hands tracing the outline of her body, feeling the familiar curves that had once been a source of comfort and joy. "Let's rebuild our trust, our love. Together," she replied, her voice thick with emotion, her hands roaming over my back, sending shivers down my spine. The heat between us grew, igniting the fire that had once burned so brightly in our relationship. As we surrendered to the moment, the outside world faded further away, leaving only the two of us entwined in a dance of passion and longing. I lost myself in the taste of her lips, the warmth of her body against mine, each movement a silent vow that we would overcome the shadows of the past. In that cocoon of intimacy, I felt a deep sense of hope blossoming within me. While the journey ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, the love we shared was worth fighting for. We had stumbled, yes, but we were still standing, and that was enough. As we lay together, our breaths mingling in the quiet stillness, I realized that love was not just a feeling, it was a choice we made every day. And today, as I held Danielle close, I chose to love her fiercely, to trust in the possibility of healing, and to believe that we could emerge from this stronger than ever. In the soft glow of the fading light, we found our rhythm again, navigating the complexities of our hearts. We were no longer defined by the betrayal, but by our willingness to forgive, to understand, and to embrace the love that had always been our foundation. As the stars began to twinkle outside our window, I knew that our journey was just beginning. Together, we would face whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that love, though sometimes tested, could weather any storm. And as I kissed her one last time, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, knowing we would find our way back home to each other.